Hey everyone, Jurgen here, and I have been looking forward to this keyboard for quite a while now. What we have here is the KBD67 Lite from KBDfans. So quick background before we dive in, there are a lot of entry-level enthusiast keyboards in the market right now. I wouldn't call these customs because you can't really customize the kit that you buy except for picking out the color, but they are indeed targeted towards enthusiasts. One of the most hyped up releases was the NK65 entry edition last year. It was a $95 kit and it was a good value, though as I have said on my review of it, I didn't think that the hype was worth it. The release was also plagued with quality issues, with 20% of the batch where I bought mine having cracks on the case. After the NK65 release, we saw other companies following with their own entry-level keyboards. KBDfans released this one, the KBD67 Lite, for $100. The key company has the Portico, which is priced at $120. Even Ramaworks, well known for their high-end customs, released the Cara for $160, though calling it entry-level at that price point is a bit of a stretch. Even Diximec has announced the Bauer Lite. And yes, I have pre-ordered the Portico and Cara, and I am planning to buy the Bauer Lite as well, so if you want to see those videos, please click the subscribe button and turn on notifications. The KBD67 Lite was the first one to be sent out, and it is the cheapest among the gasket mounts. Group buy for this started on Black Friday with a commitment to ship by Q1 2021. I usually don't review stuff that have finished the group buy phase, but I have a feeling that they may continue selling it in the future. I did ask KBDfans if they will be selling in-stock kits, and this is their response. I do know of other retailers who have ordered stocks of the KBD67 Lite and will be reselling it, like Zion Studios PH. Zion Studios is also sponsoring this video, and you can get the switches that I will be using here on their website. They do ship internationally, so you can check them out on the links below. Okay, so let's go to the unboxing. Out of the box, you get a package that is very similar with the NK65. You get a carrying case, which is really nice. You get the keyboard, which to my surprise is pre-assembled. I was expecting this to come in a kit that you have to put together. This is the first time that I am seeing a keyboard with PCB mount stabs to be assembled out of the box. You also get a coiled cable. It's not braided, so it's not as good as the customs that you see on the market, but that's okay for the price. You get extra screws and a screwdriver for the keyboard. I rarely comment on unboxings, but I have to give KBDfans credit here. They knew that a lot of beginner enthusiasts would be buying this keyboard, so the fact that the keyboard is pre-assembled and that you also get the tools to open it up if you want to is a big plus for me. This is a kit that is quite beginner friendly. I actually wasn't planning to try the keyboard immediately, but I figured that beginners may want to hear how the keyboard sounds without any modifications, so I decided to put on a stock build first. For this build, I decided to use 62 grams Tangerines. These are linears that are pre-lubed out of the factory. Keycaps here are GMK Red Samurai. So that sounds really nice out of the box. For stock stabs, these are good. If you are new and you don't feel comfortable modding your keyboard, I think this is a really great option. The stab wire has some lube, but the housings don't. I would advise you to put some lube on the stab housing and on the inside with a brush, and you should be set. Now, let's go to the design and layout of the keyboard. So the KBD67 Lite is a 65% gasket mount hot swap keyboard. The case is made of ABS plastic. The bezels are relatively thin, with the top and bottom bezels being larger than the side. Typing angle is 6%, and the design is similar to the other KBD67s that were released before. The case has two parts, the top and the bottom case, with this curved side profile which I really like. There is a seam where the top and bottom case meet, and in the interest of being thorough, after a couple of days using it, dirt does get into the seam. You can also see some of the RGB peeking in between the screw posts. Not a big issue for me since it's not visible when typing, but it's there. Overall, I like the design, and it gives an illusion that the keyboard is thinner and lower than it really is. Putting it side by side with a tofu, you would see that the tofu is just taller by a couple of millimeters. Since there is no metal on this construction, it does flex a bit, but I don't think it's a concern. The layout here is the good 65% layout. You get 1.25 bottom row modifiers and a blocker beside the arrow keys. I like this since it makes getting keycaps easier, and in my opinion, it just looks better. The keyboard is fully programmable through QMK or VIA out of the box. Okay, so let's discuss the typing experience, and let's also open up the keyboard. The mounting system here is what is commonly called a gasket mount, but that is a term that has already become non-descriptive. Basically, this is a silicone sandwich. The heart of the mounting system is the silicone dampener that is placed in between the PCB and the polycarbonate plate. It extends outside of the PCB and sits on the bottom case. For the top case, you have these small silicone bits that push down on the polycarbonate plate when the keyboard is closed. Effectively, the silicone isolates the plate from the plastic case. There is not much compression when you close it since this silicone is not as soft as foam and it does not compress as much. In addition to the silicone dampener, you get a second dampener which is a foam beneath the PCB. I like this dampening system. I was trying to listen for hollowness on the board, but it sounded great on the sound test. One issue though is that the plastic bits on the bottom case where the silicone sits are too small, and you may damage that as I did here, so be careful. Going to the PCB assembly, the plate, silicone, and PCB are held in 9 places by standoffs. I was tempted to remove this and try the keyboard without it, but I wanted to try the keyboard the way the makers intended it first. Removing the plate and the silicone, you get to the PCB. You get screw-in stabs here, and to my surprise, they were actually clipped. Though I think they missed a bit on one of my stabs. The stab wire is lubed, but the housing wasn't, so I disassembled and relubed the stab. The stabs are decent, it's a bit scratchy, and I would recommend you replace this with something like Durock V2s, since those glide really well. I also put in the stabilizer stickers on the PCB that came with the kit. The PCB does not have a daughter board, but since the board doesn't flex too much, I don't think it's an issue. Reassembly was quite easy. The standoffs were a bit of a pain to hold since they were quite small, but if you don't feel comfortable, you should be okay with not opening up this keyboard. For this next build, I will be using Durock T1s. I really like Durock switches, and I have been looking for a board to try these switches on. I wanted to have clear switches since I wanted to showcase the RGB. Since the plate is polycarbonate, I was thinking that the RGB should be really great. And it is. Here is the second of 3 sound tests. Going deeper into the typing experience, the silicone mounting design is good, but I honestly think it's a bit too stiff to make a significant difference. The board has flex, but you would need to press quite hard to feel it. The main issue is that this board only weighs around 590 grams when built. Here, take a look at this. As I am typing, the desk mat is absorbing most of the weight of my key presses. If I press hard on the backspace key, which I usually do, the opposite side of the board gets lifted by a bit. In aluminum keyboards that are heavier, the board is planted firmly on the desk mat. But since the KBD67 Lite is really light, it doesn't push the desk mat enough, and when you type on it, most of the bounce may actually be coming from your desk mat, not the keyboard's gasket mount. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing since it still makes the typing feel relatively soft, but I do find the keyboard movement when hitting the backspace key a bit annoying. Maybe strips for the feet that's similar to the NK65 may be better for this keyboard. I'll probably try and replace these bump-ons in the future. Granting that the keyboard is a bit too light for its own good, does that make the gasket mount useless? I don't think so. The current mounting style is still better than your traditional tray mount, and the key presses do feel more consistent across the board. I don't feel any hotspots even if there are standoffs on the plate. The bottom row, especially the spacebar, does sound a bit louder than the rest of the keyboard, and I guess that's because that's likely the stiffest area in the board. Overall, I think the typing experience is great. The bottom out feels soft, and I like how the switches sound, though the board could use a bit more weight or different feet. Okay, so let's go to the inevitable, the comparison with the NK65. Novel Keys has not yet shipped my NK65 after ordering it 2 weeks ago, so I would probably just do a separate sound test on it. I have sold my previous cracked 65 due to the quality issues that I had on my unit. Going to the comparison, the biggest differentiator I think is build quality. Novel Keys did say that they had fixed the problem with the screws and it should no longer crack the case. However, my issue there is one, if a screw is enough to crack the keyboard case, the material used may be too brittle and it may not last in the long run. Number 2, 20% of that batch had defects and they still shipped it. If they didn't know it, it means Novel Keys quality control is so bad that they couldn't spot a flaw affecting 20% of their units. Or the alternative is they knew about it, but shipped the keyboards despite the defects. Either way, that paints Novel Keys in quite the bad light. Going to the KBD67 Lite, it's hard to test how long the ABS plastic will last, but I feel more confident in it, and I'll be watching out for defects that other buyers will have. Going to the layout and form factor, this is preference, but I like the layout of the KBD67 Lite better with the blocker on the right side. You do get more color choices on the NK65, but I think the design of the KBD67 Lite looks better. The NK65 is a simple block of keys while the KBD67 Lite has a bit more sophistication to it. Typing experience is very similar, though I would give a slight edge to the KBD67 since it has PCB screw and stabs. The sound will be down to your preference. The NK65 has an aluminum plate while the KBD67 has polycarbonate. In terms of accessibility, the NK65 is regularly restocked while there is no clarity yet for the KBD67 Lite. If I had to choose, I would hands down pick the KBD67 Lite over the NK65. In my personal opinion, the design, build quality, and typing experience of the KBD67 Lite is better than the NK65. The NK65 does give you more color choices and it is regularly in stock, so take that into consideration. Okay, so that is quite a long review, but I wanted to be thorough. To summarize, the KBD67 Lite is a great keyboard kit for $100. The kit is beginner friendly and I do hope that KBD fans will restock this. The typing feel and sound are really great, though it is a bit light. True to its name. If you have $100 to buy a kit, this is my top recommendation. For now. The bar has been set quite high and I am eagerly awaiting for the Portico and Cara. Okay, so now I will leave you with the third and final build. A lot of you have been requesting for Gateron Ink Blacks and you have it here. This one is with Cat Alphas and I hope you enjoy it. If you liked the video, please do consider subscribing, and I hope I have helped you in deciding whether this is the keyboard for you. See you on the next one. Bye!